Good morning, friends. I hope everyone is staying safe and warm during the sweep of winter weather we've been experiencing. I think it's snow and the wind and the cold. So welcome to our first web conference. This conference is a recording. So remember, you're not going to have anybody to personally interact with, but there are some assignments that will engage you and you'll do some interaction. Even though it's a recording, you are going to need to do the setup, and we will do this for every conference that we have. So for the web conference, you want to make sure we're using the BB Ultra. Go to the Collaborate panel and click on the lower right corner and click on My Settings. Then you want to set up your camera and microphone. To test your audio, go ahead and select the device that you will be using for your audio and check the level and see if you get a yes, it's working message. You also need to test your video by selecting the desired video that you're going to use and make sure you get a yes, it's working message for that. Next, you'll expand the attendees panel by clicking on the icon in the lower left corner that looks like two people and drag it to the left. And then finally, to open the chat view, click on the chat icon that looks like a balloon in the lower left corner. And that will be the setup that we do each web conference. You need to make sure it's all set up prior to getting started.
I was standing there saying, pass it to me.
We will also start every conference and this one with a quality check. We want to just make sure everything's working so you don't miss out on anything being shared or miss out on an opportunity to share yourself. So if you can see the red record icon in the upper left corner, go ahead and raise your hand. If you can hear me, raise your hand. And if you completed the audio and video setup ahead of time, go ahead and raise your hand. Now with this being recorded, obviously you raising your hand, but I wasn't seeing it. So if you're having any issues, make sure you go ahead and you email me so I can help you try and troubleshoot the issues that you are having. So let's go ahead and get started. Like I said, this is week 1 of our course, and the course is focusing on the topic of thinking collaboratively. We're going to be focusing on the text by Randy Garrison that you should have. It is titled Thinking Collaboratively, Learning in a Community of Inquiry. This topic is actually one of my favorites for my K-12 teachers to read and learn about. One reason I really like it is because I believe that thinking collaboratively is a skill that many of our employers are seeing as a fading skill of candidates for their jobs. We actually just had a business advisory council in my school district, and we were talking about some of the soft skills and employability skills that students don't have anymore. So I think it's critical for us as educators to make thinking collaboratively a part of our normal classroom framework that we're using every day. So there are going to be 4 learning objectives for our learning this week. These learning objectives are objectives you will be able to do at the end of reading Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 of the text, as well as participating in this web conference. So by the end of this workshop, you will be able to define collaborative thinking. You will be able to explain the community of inquiry framework. You will be able to explain benefits of collaborative thinking and learning. And you will also be able to identify and create situations for collaborative learning in your classroom. So the first thing I want to do is really reflect on your beliefs of a few concepts that are part of collaborative thinking. I'm going to go ahead and read each one of these questions one by one. And when I'm done reading it, I'm just going to pause for a few seconds, and I want you to reflect and answer those questions kind of just in your mind to get yourself focused and thinking about the collaborative thinking and what your philosophy is at this point. So first, when you hear the word collaboration, what actually comes to mind? When someone says collaboration, what do you think of?
Put all mine in the basket, dude.
Okay, so I'll let you know when I hear the word collaboration, what I immediately think about and picture is people working together. It needs to be effective and efficient. And they're working together to produce or accomplish something. Okay, what about the word thinking? When someone mentions thinking to you, what do you think? What do you see?
Every day, don't touch the computer.
Okay, when somebody mentions to me that they're thinking or asks me if I'm thinking, what am I thinking? I immediately picture my mind hard at work, coming up
We're
with
up
images, coming up with
8-6.
thoughts. That is what I think of. And the last question, so when you put the two of those together and you have here collaborative thinking, then what comes to mind? So I just mentioned the words collaborative thinking to you. What's that mean? My thought, putting the collaboration and the thinking together, is then a group or a pair of people that are working together and thinking collaboratively, putting their minds together, and really trying to accomplish something. Collaborative learning. Students thinking collaboratively leads to collaborative learning in the classroom. I know that sounds a little redundant, but you have to have them thinking together before they can actually learn together. So how many of you think you make collaborative learning a part of your classroom framework? How often do you make it part of your lessons? Do you feel it's actually being effective? Have you put processes and procedures in place that students are comfortable with the collaborative learning? So I think collaborative learning in the classroom is pretty important for the students to experience successful learning. To me, collaborative learning requires effective collaborative thinking by the students and the teacher. They all need to be working together. For this to be effective, the learning has to be active. Students will take the new knowledge, relate it to their prior knowledge. For the collaborative thinking and the collaborative learning, I think it's important that the students are given a challenge so they can engage with the other students trying to process and synthesize. So this video that I have here is titled Collaborative Learning Builds Deeper Understanding. It is from Schools That Work, and I think it really gives a good picture of the benefits of collaborative learning in the classroom. So I want you to go ahead and click on the link and watch the video.
Magic. I wasn't even here. It's done. 42.
Doing that the whole time you're gone?
Okay, I think most of you are done. If not all of you, you just had time to watch that video. I really, really like this video. I think it gives an exceptional look at collaborative learning in the classroom, some effective ways it is utilized, and how it can benefit the students.
College right there.
So I love cartoons. Sometimes they make me laugh. Sometimes they make me reflect. So if you look at this cartoon, I found it. It made me giggle, and then it made me really start to think, and I was able to immediately go to times in my life, times in my career, times as a teacher, times as a curriculum director that I saw this. I witnessed both sides. The person that said, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And the other person then that's like, hey, now I got to do all the work. So obviously this is not thinking collaboratively. So looking at this cartoon, I want you to think about a time in your life, in your classroom or your situation or as a colleague that the situation was true. Which role did you play? Were you the just tell me what to do, or were you the one that was doing all the work? How did you feel playing that role or in that situation, and how did you handle it? And what I want you to do is pause the recording and go into our discussion board, into our classroom learning management system, and I want you to post your response in the discussion board. Again, a situation that is similar to this one that you did experience, which role were you, how did you feel, and how did you handle that situation? All right, welcome back. Something I didn't ask you to write about, but I think is a good discussion topic from this cartoon is if there is this situation where it's one person doing the work and the other one's just saying, whatever, I'll do it, how do you handle that situation? What are some strategies you can use to pull both of them together to try to create some collaborative thinking? Okay, collaborative thinking. So what exactly is collaborative thinking? Our author describes it as the means to inquire, test, and apply new understandings and to make sense of information. It happens when participants are engaging in critical reflection and discourse. Garrison actually states that it is a process where participants engage new ideas, they raise questions, and they clarify misunderstandings. Through collaborative thinking, skills such as critical thinking, problem solving, and communication are developed. Collaborative thinking can also be described as inquiry driven by engaged participants in a purposeful and supportive environment. I think those two things are very important, and we'll talk about them over and over, is the environment has to be supportive of a collaborative thinking process. For collaborative thinking, the culture must be purposeful, engaging, and trusting. So thinking about your classroom and you want it to provide an opportunity for collaborative thinking and learning, do you think your classroom provides that culture of trust, purpose, and engagement? So collaborative thinking obviously can provide many benefits and help the culture for collaborative learning in the classroom. I stated just on the previous slide the skills such as critical thinking, communication, and problem solving that can be developed. These are skills that employers are stating over and over and over that the candidates for their positions don't have these skills anymore, or they're lacking in these skills. So one major benefit is to bring those skills back into our students. Collaborative thinking has proven to produce some pretty good results when you think about the Mayo Clinic, the double helix, and
Is there somebody's
especially
car on there?
a good example in today's society is Google and Facebook. So think for a moment, are there any situations, products, processes, strategies? Think about a time that you helped produce something through collaborative thinking with a group.
Is it one that's on display, or?
And when you're looking back on that, collaborative thinking often then it makes us open our own thoughts and beliefs and kind of look at other people's perspectives and making sense of our own experiences. Collaborative thinking also then presents our students a challenge, and they're challenging themselves and their beliefs and their thoughts, and they're also then being able to challenge others' ideas and perspectives in a constructive nature. So Garrison worked with Anderson and Archer to come up with this community of inquiry framework.
Within one.
And actually, the community of inquiry framework actually was a product of collaborative thinking. They started their work in the late 1990s, and they were taking their interests, their knowledge, and their experiences of online learning and trying to figure out how it can be more engaging and a community of inquiry and collaborative thinking. So this framework is actually an environment that is based on thinking and learning collaboratively, and we will learn more about that later in the class.
So if it's a par 5, he needs
So
a
what I
birdie
want
on
you
his
to do
stroke.
now, I've thrown a lot of information at you. You've gotten a lot of information from the 2 chapters in the text.
What happened?
So what I want you to do is pause in a moment and summarize in your own words what collaborative thinking is and some of its benefits. So go ahead and type that summary up and put it in the Dropbox of our classroom. Okay, up until now, we've just focused on really what collaborative thinking and learning are and what their benefits are. What I want to do is switch gears and think about how this all fits in our classrooms. So the goal of classroom teach should be to create an environment that provides opportunities for collaborative thinking and learning. Collaborative thinking and learning leads to effective, successful learning for our students, as you saw in that video that I showed earlier in this web conference. So go ahead and pause the web conference, go into our discussion board, and put a reflection on how you think your classroom promotes collaborative thinking. What are some activities you've done? What are things you do on a daily basis? What are processes? How are you encouraging that collaborative thinking in your classroom? So again, pause this web conference, go to the discussion board, and reflect on how your classroom promotes collaborative thinking.
Water, water, water. Get it in the water, water.
I want to talk about technology and how to use it to collaborate. When you talk to people, technology is often one of those items that is to blame for diminishing many of our skills of students, especially communication skills. However, if technology is used correctly, then it can be used to encourage collaboration and help teach kids thinking collaboratively and lead to some collaborative learning. One of my favorite resources for collaboration is Google. Between Google Classroom, Google Docs, Google Hangouts, there are so many opportunities to collaborate with your colleagues and even students not really in your classroom. What I've learned through some surveys of some K-12 districts is many of the teachers aren't being trained. They're being provided all this technology and all the programs and the software or the web-based resources, but they're not being trained on how to really use it effectively in their class. So I think school districts need to make it a priority to train their teachers on using that technology to encourage collaboration in their classrooms. So continuing our focus on using technology to encourage collaboration in your classroom, here's a video I have. It's about teachers in a school district in Idaho. They use technology to engage their learning, and it just gives you some ideas of how the learning is effective with the technology. So go ahead and watch this video, and we'll come back after it. So I hope watching that video, it made you really think about how you're using technology in your classroom. Are you using it just for individual activities, individual assessments, just having students do research? And what are some, I'm hoping you can see some ways that maybe you need to use technology a little better for some collaboration in your class. So the last thing you're going to do for this week is a quiz. The quiz found in our Google Classroom It's titled Week 1 Web Conference Quiz. It will be over the content that we just shared in this web conference and the content from the first 2 chapters of the
Hi.
book. So when you are done with this web conference, you can go right into the Google Classroom and complete that quiz. I will ask that that quiz is due Sunday. That gives you all day today and 2 more days, Sunday at midnight, to complete that quiz, and then I will turn it off. Remember, this conference is a recording. Our next conference right now is scheduled for Friday, February 1st at 9 p.m. and we will be live at that web conference. So I hope everyone has a good night, and I will see you soon.